The president condemned the violence, but is there anything he can actually do to stop it? Joining me now, my own little kitchen cabinet, former State Department spokesman P.J. Crowley and CNN military analyst and former U.S. Army General Spider Marks. I'm going to pretend that you are the Secretary of State and you are the Secretary of Defense, and I want you to talk about, in our own little cabinet meeting here, what you would advise the president. A senior White House official told me that discussions about canceling Bright Star, the military joint operation, those discussions began in June, around the time the Obama administration canceled the delivery of 4 F-16 fighter planes to the Egyptian Air Force as a way of putting pressure on the military. Here's the question. Is that move, the suspension of the planes and the suspension of the joint military exercises, will that be enough to convince the Egyptian government, quote unquote, the Egyptian military, that they need to change their actions? PJ.
Well, the Egyptian, we're dealing with decisions made by Egyptians and mistakes made by Egyptians. The United States has limited influence. I do think that canceling the Bright Star exercise is a strong statement that may well be heard by the Egyptian military. The real dilemma for the United States is what kind of message do you send to the Muslim Brotherhood, which is now outside the political process, if our objective is to bring civilian rule back to Egypt and an inclusive democracy as part of it. How do you get the Muslim Brotherhood back in play, where their list of grievances, beginning with a coup and now this violence, those grievances continue to rise?
General, explain to me and to our viewers why these joint military exercises are important.
They've been important since 1980, which is the first year we did Bright Star. What it does is it allows friends and allies in the region to achieve interoperability. We can do this in command post exercises, and we can do it on the ground with field training exercises. Those are extremely important trust-building factors and steps that are necessary in order to have a stable and a secure region. Without the exercise, we'll be fine. The real issue is how does the United States going forward continue to try to establish some degree of influence? What we say and what we think is not relevant. We parse the words pretty well. It's our actions that are extremely important. So the cancellation is, I think, fine, not sufficient. It's what do we do with $1.5 billion, because the real cost will come down the road, Jake. If we allow this thing to spin out of control, we're going to have a Syria in about another 12 months, present in Cairo and elsewhere in Egypt. That's not a good thing.
Let's talk about the $1.5 billion. My source in the White House, senior White House official, told me that the decision is obviously a very, very difficult one. And he said, quote, we have national security issues in Egypt, the Sinai, the security of Israel, the Suez, and other regional issues. At the same time, it's difficult to continue a relationship with a government engaging in crackdowns like we saw yesterday. What would you advise the president? Should we really seriously talk about pulling a plug on these funds?
Well, I think there's more than one way to attack this. I think we missed an opportunity 6 weeks ago to call it a coup. The fact that we haven't undermines the credibility of the United States in the region. I do think that I would have suspended military aid 6 weeks ago to get the Egyptian military invested in their own roadmap and said, look, we're going to suspend it. By law, we have to. On the other end of the spectrum, once you restore civilian rule, all the funding will be there. In the meantime, I would have found a way to actually increase civilian assistance. $250 million is a paltry sum, and right now what is the real danger is not only violence, as Spider just talked about, but it's the collapse of the Egyptian economy. The longer that this crisis goes on, tourism is a major element of the Egyptian economy. That's been absent now for 2 years. The Morsi government and the United States and the international community were negotiating economic reforms that were vital to getting Egypt moving forward, creating job opportunity for a restive and young population. That's all now forestalled by the crisis that we have.
Quickly, General, what would you advise President Obama to do to avoid this becoming the next Syria?
Isolation of Egypt is not a good deal. We have to stay connected, and if we do that with our $1.5 billion, we should continue to do that. This could really spin out of control, and you end up with, you've got a radical Shia Iran, and you could have a radical Sunni Egypt with Israel right in the middle. That's not a good outcome.
All right, Spider Marks and P.J. Crowley, thank you so much.